Mathur. A postgraduate is an Indian Administrative Service Officer of the 1982 batch. As Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting since 31st October 2012, he is handling issues concerning broadcasting policies and regulations, content regulation, permission to information and broadcasting. He has over 29 years of experience in ministries and departments of crafts and handloom development. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I hand it over to our chairperson, Shri.
Good afternoon to all of you. I've been given a script with a lot of statistics in it. I'm very sure, I think, as far as the growth of the Indian media and entertainment industry is concerned, all of us here are aware of the way it's been growing over the years, so I need not repeat any of these things. But yes, I think our country, the sheer size of it, the number of people that are here in our country, that by itself gives a tremendous opportunity for growth in this sector. Some time back, the thought of reaching and engaging with such a vast and diverse population seemed improbable. Today, due to the digital technologies, state-of-the-art mobile devices, and penetration of broadband, content is now being made available on a variety of devices for access anytime, anywhere, which can be a big boon to the advertisers. The total advertising expenditure across the media contributed to 40% in the M&E sector itself. And the traditional media, such as television and print, are still very much the preferred medium for advertising here. With the first and second phase of digitization successfully implemented, there's of course a palpable excitement in our broadcast environment. It has unlocked the potential of our broadcasting sector. Content can no longer be a mere commodity, and in fact, the launch of niche channels has become a reality because of the availability of extra bandwidth and, of course, the improvement in the rating system, to which I would add the contemplated improvements in the rating system consequent to certain decisions taken recently. As distribution-led advantages collapse and ratings begin to reflect true audience preferences and tastes, content should truly emerge as the king. The experts in the panel would take stock of our broadcasting sector in the post-digitization era. We have about 90 minutes for this session. I would request each of my colleagues here on the dais to make their presentation in 10 to 12 minutes so that we also have some time for questions and answers, which can then be taken up. I would like to introduce our panelists here, Mr. Jahil Thakkar from the KPMG, Mr. Tom Beck from Broadcast Electronics, Ms. Dipali Sharma from Prasar Bharati, and Mr. Deepan Sinha from ATC Labs. I would firstly invite Mr. Jahil Thakkar to make his presentation. Mr. Thakkar is a partner and head of media and entertainment in KPMG India. Prior to the KPMG, Mr. Thakkar worked at 20th Century Fox and DreamWorks in LA. He has deep experience working with media and entertainment clients both in the US and in India. He's been with KPMG now for 13 years, having worked across, LA, New York, Los Angeles, Orange County, there's a whole, quite a list. He's worked on strategy, business planning, and operations engagement in the print, film, television, radio, advertising, and interactive companies sectors. His experiences include development of an enterprise-wide strategy for a major regional newspaper group, commercial due diligence on a regional network for a major GC player, development of new media strategy for India for a UK-based publishing house's India magazine, regional television strategy and acquisition target identification for a large Indian television company, and development of business plan to fundraise for an independent radio station in New Delhi. Thank you, Mr. Thakkar, for being here, and I now invite you to make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. And thank you for the opportunity to present at this event. I'm going to talk about, the growth opportunities that exist in the broadcasting sector, specifically given that we've seen several changes in our broadcasting landscape over the last 2 to 3 years with digitization, several regulatory changes. This has led to a significant changing of business models and new players coming in, as well as several opportunities being thrown up both in the short term as well as the long term. Now, just to give you a bit of background, the KPMG does a fairly comprehensive study of the Indian media and entertainment sector every year. Our last survey showed that the Indian media and entertainment sector grew by about 13% to about $17.5 billion US dollars in 2011-12. And although the 2013 was somewhat of a muted year, we're still compiling the statistics, but we expect that growth rates averaged between 10 to 11%, somewhere there. Now, the television sector is the largest sector among all media and entertainment sectors. It's about close to double that of the print sector, and growing at a much faster pace, followed by film, radio, music, etc. Now, over the next 5 years or so, we expect that this sector will grow by about 18% CAGR, which by any standards is a fantastic rate, even if you look at any other major economy in the world. This growth rate is both, historically has been coming from advertising, but we expect subscription to gather pace as well over the next few years. And this is on the backs of both rising ARPUs as well as increasing CNS penetration over the years. Now, digitization, of course, is clearly a major driver, growth driver across the industry. And, as Mr. Mathur earlier said, that there's significant excitement in the industry given the changes brought about by digitization. Phase 1 and Phase 2, in spite of some challenges, have largely been beneficial. Carriage rates have come down, etc. And I think the industry, at least the broadcasting sector, is hoping that Phase 3 and Phase 4 can also be, completed with similar success. Some key trends. There's increasing demand for niche content. And what do I mean by niche content? I mean, obviously the GECs, there are a significant number of GEC players. But as you might have noticed, there are, different versions of even movie channels. There's niches and sub-niches coming forth now. Regional content continues to drive growth. The number of channels launching in, Tamil, Telugu, Bhojpuri, Punjabi, and sub-genres even in regional is a gathering trend. This is obviously on the backs of increased capacity as well as consumers' propensity to pay. While new channels are being launched, there's significant consolidation happening in the industry as well, because at the network level, now whether you take a Star, a Z, a Sony, etc., the number of channels launched are increasing, but there's consolidation happening at the company level. Government initiatives and support continues to, there's a lot of activity in that space with new regulation, different rules, etc. Digital extension of TV media. I think the previous panel covered how the TV everywhere concept on different devices, etc., is gathering pace. And this is all, of course, being driven by digitization. And like I covered earlier, we expect the number of subscribers to go to, about 182 million by 2017, and the ARPU to rise today from about $3.6 to about 6.2, and maybe even further if we can. The quicker digitization gets done, and by digitization I mean not only the seeding of set-top boxes, but MSOs actually introducing packages, etc., and driving that true consumer choice. And media consumption, as we know, is not just limited to the four walls. There have already been several launches of different apps, different real-time streaming services, etc. We believe that these will only gather pace. Today, we are being held back a little bit by the infrastructure available in the country, telecom infrastructure. 3G is not quite there yet. Significant changes have been made in 3G on pricing, etc., which is driving subscriber growth. But I think the country is waiting for, at least this sector is waiting for bated breath as far as 4G goes. Some other countries have already begun 5G plans, as you might have read in the newspaper. So I think it's about time we get our act together on that front. The number of smartphones today, 1.5 billion. This in 2013, the number of smartphones actually surpassed the number of laptops and PCs globally. So it's really become the personal media device of choice. 30% of the population is online, and 13% of web traffic today comes from the mobile, and increasing at massive rates every year. If you just look at the growth in digital advertising, most advertising is growing at 10, 11%. Digital advertising is growing at 40, 45% every year. This is just a snapshot of what the different broadcasters have done. I think the previous panel covered this in quite some detail, so I won't spend a lot of time on this. But essentially, it's the TV everywhere concept. People launching different apps and streaming services. As we all know, services like Netflix, etc., in the US have had significant success. Both not only from subscriber acquisition, but even on the content side. Netflix won its first Emmy this past year, with a series called House of Cards. So I think you'll see a lot of those business models coming to India fairly soon as well. Regional markets, like I covered, in 2012, regional markets were about 26.6% of total television viewership, of which Tamil and Telugu were about 50%. And I think this trend will continue. I think the major networks will continue to play very, very aggressively in the regional market. And we can expect that significant advertising dollars will continue to move to regional in the coming years. As I mentioned earlier, niche channels and genres are also making a greater impact, primarily because not only are consumers demanding them, but business models are changing. In the sense, India's television industry has been largely advertising dependent for as long as we can remember. But now subscriber-led or ARPU-led channels are coming into being. HBO has, as we know, launched 2 channels at 60 rupees a month. There's Star Premier HD, which is priced at I believe 90 rupees a month, which is significant considering that their overall ARPU is somewhere in the 130, 140 range. So we'll see a lot more of that happening. Very, very niche channels, golf channel, tennis channel, those kind of addressing channels that can survive only on 40, 50, 60,000 subscribers. Similarly, kids, music, Hindi, movies, lifestyle, these are all experiencing significant growth rates. I I mentioned earlier that there's significant consolidation going on in the industry. These might not be majority acquisitions happening, but there are still significant stakes being taken, in regional networks by the larger networks, or conglomerates like, Aditya Birla Group taking stakes in companies like Living Media, and private equity also making a play in this sector, whether it's in distribution or broadcasting. We have fairly friendly policies as far as FDI go in this sector. Majority stakes are available for most aspects of the M&E industry, of course, with the exception of news, whether on automatic or on approval route. I think hopefully in 2013 we didn't see too many deals happening in this space, probably because of the overall macroeconomic environment. We hope to see that to change, in line with the economy. I just want to address some of the challenges being faced by the industry. Digitization has, been a challenge in terms of keeping with the original timelines. I think we'd been fairly. We'd expected a delay, as our last year's report said, for about 12 to 18 months. And hopefully some of these issues can be resolved on the ground level. There are significant pushbacks, from the LCOs, etc., happening. And hopefully we'll kind of mine through all of those and get to digitization being done, over a period of time all over India. I think that is a significant growth driver for the overall industry as well as beneficial for the consumer. Funds availability has been an issue for the cable industry for some time now. Private equity has stepped in, as we've seen Goldman invest in Den, we've seen Providence invest in Hathaway. So some of those are starting to happen as well. There are some other challenges. As we all know, the measurement system in the industry is undergoing through some flux. We are in the middle of changing, to a new measurement system. Until that issue is resolved, we may face advertisers may face some challenges in trying to determine what the currency of advertising is going to be. We as a country are over-reliant on advertising compared to most major markets where subscription revenue does form a significant piece of the overall revenue pie. There's growing competition from new media. The Indian consumer so far has demonstrated somewhat of a reluctance to pay. I think that will come once value is demonstrated and the infrastructure falls into place. And of course, piracy continues to be a concern. I think there are, some steps being taken to address some of these challenges. We are, the industry is working on a new measurement system, as we all know. There is customized channel packages. I think the MSOs are now just about, at least some of the leading ones are getting their act together and putting in subscriber management systems, call centers, moving from a completely fragmented, disorganized and informal way of functioning to a more system and process based way of functioning, which will help them, hopefully become a credible competitor to DTH in a digitized world. And then there's, of course, the new launch of channels and niche content that I spoke about earlier. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thakkar, for a most enlightening presentation, and I'm sure there are going to be certain questions on it. Our second presenter today is Mr. Tom Beck. He's the Director of Sales and RF Products at BE. Mr. Beck began his career with BE in 1995 as a sales engineer for the Asia Pacific territory, and then moved to Director of Sales Operation and Sales Management of US Government Sales at BE. In 2011, he became Director of Sales for all BE products, including FM and AM transmitters, Audio Vault program automation, Marty Electronics, and the Commotion social media platform. Mr. Beck is based at BE's headquarters in Quincy, USA. Mr. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be able to speak to you this afternoon, and I appreciate you taking time so late in the day to listen to all of us and to hear our presentations. I would like to begin when we're talking about monetization in any form. It's a serious topic, and sometimes bold statements may be needed. So I'd like to begin by stating this. If you want your advertisers to invest more of their advertising budgets on your social media pages or mobile app, they will only do so when you have given them a reason to. It's not enough that you care. You have to make the advertisers care. But first, your listeners have to care. In other words, to monetize through mobile and social media, it's vital to understand how to attract and keep listeners socially engaged with the radio station or the television station. I would like to first begin and talk about some statistics. I think you will find them very interesting. I certainly did. Radio took 38 years to reach 50 million listeners. Television took less time, only 13 years. The internet was 4 years. Facebook, I think everybody knows what that is, actually took longer than I expected, 3.5 years. This may be an extreme example, but the mobile app Draw Something took only 50 days to reach 50 million users. These are worldwide statistics, of course. But media consumption on average is 7 hours a day. Mobile consumption is now the /1 use of media with 1.8 hours. It's now surpassing TV, PC usage, or any other single media. I read a statistic also that if a person has a smartphone, they actually look at it on average 181 times per day. More statistics. Now, 50% of web access is now done through a mobile device exclusively. And the average consumer actively uses 6.5 apps throughout a 30-day period, and that represents 80% of the time is spent in the mobile apps. A lot more statistics. The one that is most interesting when you start adding these together, the one in purple with the bird, 91% of mobile internet access is for social purposes. So you might ask, what does that have to do with radio? Okay, back to the statistic. If 6.5 apps are used throughout a 30-day period, and that's 80% of the usage, and then 91% of that is for social purposes, you have to wonder, how can I make my station app be one of those 6.5? If you can't, you're going to miss the listener. And is it socially engaging? First, people think of Facebook and Twitter. Most stations have a Facebook app. I would argue that there are two problems with Facebook for radio. One, there's little control and the rules change anytime. Facebook owns it, they control it, they're the ones making the money, not the radio stations. And second, it's not a real-time hangout. There's a reason they call it posts. A radio station may post something, but that may be viewed immediately. It may take hours. It may take weeks. That might be important enough for something that's going to happen in a week, but if it needs to happen immediately, it is not going to reach the people. A lot of radio stations have apps all over the world, but most of them are simply just another receiver. They stream the radio, but it's a one-way event. And that app cannot change on the fly. It has no real-time social engagement either. I think the reason that all of us got into radio to begin with is there are three compelling advantages to radio. It's a community of like-minded people wanting to come together. That community may just be they like the same music, or they like the same RJ or presenter, or something as simple as that. But typically, there's an identity that people attach to a radio station. And radio is always a real-time experience. And of course, radio has the ability to reach thousands of listeners, calling them to action, giving them information anytime, anywhere, whether they're in their vehicle, in their home. Radio always does that. With Commotion, our social media platform, our goal is to just add to that, to what radio already does. And when we talked about the statistics, there has to be a way to generate revenue from that. There has to be engagement with the listeners, and there has to be some flexibility to change to keep the listeners interested. Here's one real-world example that I'd like to share with you for a station that has an Android app and an iPhone app, and they use Commotion as their platform. The reason they wanted to change is they were unable to bring their listeners together in whatever communication. Their listeners were all over the place using text messaging, mobile, social, or whatever. And they were, as I stated with Facebook, turning their listeners over to a third party that had control. So we provided them with an activity stream that is live and active at all times, where the users can see each other and can communicate with them no matter what device they're using, all in one place. Simply clicking on the right button, you can send a message and possibly even a photo or a audio clip to the station for them to use as they would see fit. It also provides the ability to provide more information within the app, such as artist information or the ability to quote on songs. Or not quote, but vote if they like or dislike something. Again, back to a few more statistics. Now that they are using the app and their listeners are using the app and communicating to each other, they have generated over 1.2 million chat messages in the last 12 months. Facebook usage actually went down for the station with only 7,000, and their mobile app is open on average over 450,000 every 30 days. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you want your advertisers to care, your listeners have to care. And as this is real data that can be taken to an advertiser to say, this is the type of audience that our station provides, and this is the type of feedback that we get from our app and from our social media. And the way that they do this is they typically will air an ad the normal way over the radio, and then they provide that at the exact same time through the activity stream. And every 30 days, they average over 2 million views of their advertisers' ads. Again, I would challenge anyone, any owner of a station, to say, do my advertisers want that type of exposure? Another example of how to monetize through social media. This is a smaller community station, and they were extremely important to community, or remain the important source of information, a source of news, a source of weather, things such as that. And they felt they were losing some of their audience, that they were looking for other more convenient mobile sources for that information. So through using Commotion, they were able to develop an app that provided a subscription service, that if they asked for notifications, if their listeners wanted to get emergency information, school closures, weather alerts or something, it would be given to them. So again, the listener may not actually have the app open. They may not even be listening to the station, but they receive this alert, and they signed up to do that. And then they were able to sell an advertisement right on this alert that if they slide it to view, they can see the alert, click on the alert, and it takes them directly to the advertiser's homepage. Again, a smaller station, but they had 23,000 unique listeners that signed up for alerts. And over 300,000 alert messages have been sent out in the last 12 months. Again, another piece of information, real data that can be given to advertisers. And of course, this can be coupons or other information as well. I'm about out of time, so I want to move to the end. I hope you saw in the statistics that mobile is what people are doing. And if you don't have a strategy to reach them, you may miss them. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. And I think very interesting statistics, which normally statistics are not. Our third presenter is Dr. Deepali Sharma. She is an Indian Broadcasting Engineers Services Officer serving in Prasar Bharati for the last 17 years. Her areas of interest are new technologies in telecommunications and broadcasting, regulatory context of telecommunications industry in India, and organization theory. She has done her master's in public policy and management and doctorate in human resources and management from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Dr. Deepali Sharma.
Good evening, sir. Thank you. It's an honor to be speaking to this audience, and after the enriching presentations, which were rich in statistics and opportunities by my two previous co-speakers, I would like to throw some light on what are the opportunities that are offered by new media, which is the in thing for traditional broadcasters. It is said that traditional broadcasters are going to face a dent because of new media, and they may even be wiped out. So I have to say that new media is not a threat to traditional broadcasters. It's an opportunity and opens up further delivery medium for them. Is there some problem there? So how I go about this presentation is what is the M&E industry context, global M&E industry context and Indian M&E industry context, some of which has already been discussed by Mr. Thakkar. How are traditional broadcasters placed in India? I will talk about radio and TV in particular. How is new media doing in India and what are the future prospects? Comparison of new media versus traditional media, and then go on to discuss the opportunities that new media offers. If you look at the global media and entertainment industry, Indian M&E industry is quite small compared to the mature economies like US and China. But what is more interesting is the growth that is expected to come in another 5 years. It is expected to grow at a rate of 17%. And from where this growth is expected, an average user presently spends around 400 rupees per annum on entertainment. But the entertainment consumption needs are on a constant increase. And while it appears to be a very small percentage, in dollar terms it is 6.6 compared to $22 in US and Brazil, this is expected to double in coming years. How does a consumer spend his spread over different delivery mediums? A major portion is going to TV. Around 58% of this is going to TV subscription, and 19% to film, 17% to print, and 3% goes to other mediums, which includes new mediums. If we look at this spread across consumers across different delivery mediums, India has around 73 crore TV viewers, 159 million radio listeners, and a new coming up popular medium is internet, access of content through internet. 174 million users have an access to internet, through which they can access video and audio on demand. All the sectors are expected to grow at a good rate. Example, TV is expected to grow at 18%, as Mr. Thakkar has already said. Radio, which is getting popularity with FM, is also expected to grow very fast at 17%. And this increase is expected to come from increasing literacy, rising income levels, and the consumption demands for entertainment. How is traditional broadcasting placed in India? I will first like to talk about radio. Radio reaches its Indian audiences through both terrestrial medium as well as internet streaming. Terrestrial medium is the primary medium, and the public broadcaster, AIR, is one of the major players, which reaches to around 99% of the population through medium wave, short wave, and FM transmitters, which are more than 500 in numbers. More popular, which is FM, private sector participates in this with their reach in around 87 cities and 242 stations. With all this whole private sector and public sector participation, we are able to reach only 40% of the area of India. The expected growth at 17%, which will be a 27.4 billion industry after 5 years, is expected to come from new stations, new FM stations, which are likely to come up after third phase of licensing, where 839 more stations are expected to come up in around 300 cities. Ad revenues are expected to flow in from these Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, as presently also we have seen, apart from metro cities, the local radio station, the stations, private FM stations in Tier 2 cities have been able to get 85% of their ad inventories booked. Increasing internet presence is also expected. Talking about the Big Brother TV, we have already listened a lot about this, but it is reached to Indian audiences, 73 crore of them through terrestrial medium, for which only the public broadcaster has exclusive license. Other mediums, cable, satellite, IP, internet streaming are done by, jointly by both public and private players. There are around 845 TV channels in India. Digitization will have positive spillover benefits, as it will help MSOs and broadcasters to get more revenues as leakages will be plugged. Carriage costs are expected to be reduced with equitable distribution of revenues across the value chain, and the freed up resources for broadcasters are likely to be put in to more content. That is where we are expected to see more niche and special genre channels. Another opportunity that TV broadcasters have is the Indian diaspora outside. More and more TV channels are increasing their international presence. Like Zee has around 169 presence in 169 countries, Colors in 50 countries. These broadcasters not only target Indian diaspora, are also coming up with local TV channels dubbed in the local languages. New media, which is the in thing and is much talked about on this platform. While new media is popularly being adopted, the growth projections for new media are phenomenal. This is the only segment of all the M&E segment that is expected to grow at the fastest rate, about 32 to 40%. Presently, there are only 174 million users, which are expected to rise to 500 million. That means almost 60% of the TV viewers will have access to video and content on internet. How is this growth facilitated? Primarily, this growth is coming from increasing mobile number of users. The increase in internet connections that we have seen in last few years is driven by mobile connections. 90% is coming from mobile connections. We already know about the great Indian mobile story with 900 million active mobile users. In the next stage of advancement, they are increasingly adopting data services. This is facilitated by 3-role and is expected to rise as 4G services are rolled out, which offer higher data speeds. The only glitch that we see is of high data rates, which constrain the ability of people to consume content on internet. But we think, as we have seen in mobile, which started with around 16.4 rupees per minute to, it's fallen down to less than a rupee per minute. Similarly, as there increase in push services, as adoption is there, data rates are likely to come down. Another important thing that is going to facilitate new media adoption in India is the device ecosystem. Currently, around 54% of mobile devices are PCs, laptops, smartphones, tablets. Now, this 54% is expected to increase to 84%. So, more and more people will have smart devices in their hands with which they can access internet. Now, some of this has been talked about my earlier speaker, Mr. Beck, the active time distribution. We have seen, he's talked about that an average user spends around 1.8 hours or 2 hours on mobile. How is this active time on mobile distributed? Only 16% of this active time goes to voice and SMS. Rest of the time goes for offline applications, online apps, chat, messaging, etc. So this opens up a great deal of opportunity for advertisers to hook on to people. They have access to exclusive around 95 minutes of each individual per day to send their content and to send their promotions. This is also facilitated by the new off-tech platforms that are coming. One of the major constraints was people could access content through the walled gardens of mobile delivery operators only. Now there are better web-based and off-tech platforms that also provide better incentives to the application developers. These opportunities are expected to help new media increase to around 74 billion in another 5 years. M&E industry, the new media gets only 6.57% of the revenues from M&E industry. It is expected to rise with these possibilities. Why is it so popular? Why is new media so popular? It is primarily because it has redefined the relationship between broadcasters and audience. We have been in an era when there was community listening of radio. Our routines were defined by the broadcasting program, broadcasters' time. It changed to a narrowcasting, where broadcasters could reach to a segment of population. Now we are in an era where new media facilitates content for small groups, for individuals, and that is why broadcasters are increasingly using it to engage more audiences. Marketers are engaging to reach individual users, target niche promotions. New media wields more on the bigger population chunk, that is the young, 20 to 40 years of age of people who are the drivers of our economy now, who are more tech savvy, who are more assertive, who are more inquisitive, want to air their opinions, want to have an impact on the society. These are the people who find new media as an immediate, informative and interactive platform. And this has helped each one of them to air their views and become a broadcaster. They are writing their views on blogs, social media, and recently we have seen how these people, how this airing of views, facilitated interaction through social media and new media has helped develop public opinion and organize people. Now, if we compare traditional media with new media, it is said that traditional media will be wiped out by new media, but we are seeing a different pattern in India. And where it is coming from? It is coming from because the consumption demands are increasing. Traditional media has not been wiped out. Radio, TV, film, print, every segment has witnessed a high growth. Is expected to rise proportionately in future. So new media is expected to come up as an additional delivery platform. If it is expected to come as an additional delivery platform, what are the things that traditional broadcasters should do to leverage this new platform for drawing more rupees? This increase, as I've already said, is coming from growing urbanization. There is more time for urban dwellers to consume content while they are on a move, while they are waiting for a meeting in the lounge, or they are commuting to office. This is an additional time that that an urban population has got to consume content. It is in addition, there is no substitution effect. It is in addition to the TV time that he or she may be getting. Secondly, if we look at the rural population or the population in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities who are not spending so much time in commuting or meeting, but then they are exposed to new experiences. Digital cinema is giving them new experiences. That is where traditional media like digital media is getting a boost. They are exposed to a better FM quality. That is where FM is getting a boost. However, traditional media has some problems which it needs to plug as it moves to new media. There is no novelty or lack of innovation. Monotonous programming is there. Uniform market models are there. We hardly see any innovation. A format comes up, it is immediately copied by others. The reality shows that come across all the channels are uniform. They're depressingly uniform. And so there is a need for this medium to bring back quality. And another important thing that they need to do is repackage content. It is not about just streaming. It is about repackaging content. For a user has 3 or 4 minutes of time while he is waiting and he needs content. There is no time for him to view a 30-minute episode. But it has to be capsuled in some 3 minutes or 4 minutes mobisode. And other interactive ways in which users can be engaged has been discussed by my earlier speaker, Mr. Beck. What are the other opportunities that they have, traditional broadcasters have through new media? They need to come up with mobile applications. One of the 6.5 mobile application, which are more interactive, allows user to have a real-time engagement with the radio channel or the TV channel, place their views and have a connect with the station. They can also host user-generated content. User-generated content is very popular on YouTube. And given India, which has challenges of unmanageable diversity, cultures, languages, dialect, it makes more sense to to host user-generated content on their websites or applications. They have an added advantage of a return path on social media and new media, where broadcasters can understand user preferences, which was not earlier possible, and they had to depend on TV audience measurements. For public broadcaster, it has in the context of India especially, it has an additional possibility. Public broadcaster has presence in all parts of India, especially in rural areas, and there is a dearth of programming for rural population. They are really underserved, especially if we look at the rural youth segment and women, they are underserved. There is a big population of rural youth and women. They can be trained, they can be used, roped in by public broadcaster with its facilities to create programs for themselves. They can create programs for themselves, which requires some capacity building, for which they can rope up with agencies like National Skill Development Corporation. NSDC has a plan to train around more than 100 crore youth on media-related technologies in coming 10 years. there are other government agencies who have special schemes for skill building and capacity building for youth and women. This kind of a collaborative effort of Prasar Bharati can not only generate programs, increase their rural presence, but also help in capacity building and employment generation in rural India, which will give a push to the rural economy. Social media also presents opportunities to traditional broadcasters. As I said, they have a return path. They can listen to what people are saying about them. So it is not only about streaming. It is not only about streaming their channels online. It's about new applications, engaging audiences more. That is why broadcasters have increased, TV broadcasters especially have increasingly used social media to drive their ratings and use social media to target specific cadres of population through promotion. Like Revenge has its Facebook page, which tells more about the actors, about the programs of in production scenario. But if we see the approach taken by these broadcasters, though they have increasingly used social media, it is very siloed. So within the whole enterprise-wide application is not there. Marketers or promotions have their own social media program. The production team has its own social media program. There is a need to get over this siloed approach and use information from the social media. 3 ways in which information return path can be used is by listening to what people are saying. There are applications like Hootsuite, Radian, Hexagon, Crimson 6 that facilitate broadcasters to sift through what people are talking on about the programs. It can be integrated into the workflow. So if there is a feedback on particular actor's performance, it can be fed into the production team. If there is a feedback on difficulty in downloading digital programs, it can be fed through the technical team. Third aspect is analyze this data to integrate it with the business strategies. While it is possible to do it at an enterprise level, the next challenge is to take it to an industry level. How information or metrics generated at the industry level, at the enterprise level can be taken to industry level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sharma. I think traditional media is, but innovation is the buzz. And now I request Dr. Deepen Sinha. He's the founder and CEO of ATC Labs, a company well known for its audio processing and compression products and technologies. He's a veteran of the broadcast industry and has been closely involved in development of new satellite and terrestrial digital radio broadcasting standards in the US. He earned a BTech honors from the IIT Kharagpur and a PhD from the University of Minnesota in 1993. Dr. Sinha has been focused in the area of audio research and was a leading audio researcher at Bell Labs for several years before founding the ATC Labs. He holds over 25 patents and has contributed to over 60 publications. Dr. Deepen Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to you all. In my presentation, I'm focused on a slightly different aspect. The previous presenters very ably highlighted how you can use the power of internet and the new technologies to reach new set of listeners and better connect with your listeners. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the infrastructure side. Just like you can use internet to reach anybody anywhere in the world, you can also use the power of internet and the networks to bring fresh new content or fresh interesting content from anywhere in the world. So the title of my presentation is Enterprise IP Audio Delivery Infrastructure and Networks. And we are going to look at this with the help of a case study, large-scale IP audio delivery infrastructure that we are deploying for a large broadcaster, and see how the power of internet can be used in judicious combination of IP audio codecs to make your content much more interesting for your listeners. So IP audio is fast coming to an age, and it's probably still at an early stage in India, but it's growing fast. There are number of, if we look at it, there are probably 5 pillars of good IP audio infrastructure. First of all, you need good quality, low latency audio codecs in the field. You need good IP connectivity, which is fast improving, although not quite there, but it's fast improving in India. And of course, you need studio infrastructure. And then, as we will see in this presentation, you need some good, powerful management software on the studio side to make full utilization of your IP audio infrastructure. And then, of course, you need, from the technology side, good resilience to network conditions such as losses and error conditions. So, IP audio becomes more and more interesting for mid and large broadcasters. What happens that large broadcasters may have operations in multiple cities. They may want to cover large events such as national games, national cricket leagues, and such. They involve reporters at multiple locations. In fact, for a mid or large broadcaster, the whole infrastructure involving IP codecs may contains tens, if not hundreds of reporters spread over wide geographical areas. And then it becomes very interesting to utilize the power of this infrastructure to interact with reporters, the remote locations that you have all over the world or all over the country. How the studio host can interact with all those to make the program or make the presentation more interesting for the listeners. So that's where flexible management from the studio side becomes very interesting. So some example of where these IP audio enterprise, what I'm calling enterprise IP audio networks, become interesting. Sport broadcasting is one example, but even for news or current events, such as coverage of national elections or even state elections, it may be very interesting to create an infrastructure where we can flexibly mix reporters with experts and move them from program to program and make the presentation much more compelling utilizing that. And we can also use it for entertainment. For example, you can have open mics across college campuses or in the community, and we may want to bring content from all those locations and mix and match them flexibly. So as I said, we are going to look at it in the context of a large enterprise-grade audio IP audio network that we are deploying for a large broadcaster in the US, which is the SiriusXM satellite broadcasting company. They have over 2.5 crore or close to 3 crore listeners, and they have 200 plus stations. 20 plus of them are sports stations. Sport broadcasting is very important in the US, and it's also becoming very important in India, such as India IPL and the cricket leagues. The issue is when you have these hundreds of reporters in the field and you want to provide them with IP audio equipment, how can you then flexibly include them in different programs that go on different channels or different sporting stations? So the ingredients of an IP, enterprise-grade IP audio networks are, of course, a good audio codec in the field, which in this case is our audio codec. And then on the studio side, it is advantageous to use server infrastructure. You don't want to clutter up your rack space. So like a server-based infrastructure on the studio side, along with IP audio on the studio side, can be very interesting or very compelling. The other point I wanted to highlight here is that with the new technology, it's also becoming more and more interesting to mix soft codecs with hardware equipment. The advantage of soft codec is that you can have it shipped to anywhere in the world very quickly. For example, if there is an expert sitting somewhere in a remote village in Kerala or anywhere in the world, a former cricketer who has moved and is living abroad, and you want to bring them into a program. Instead of shipping an equipment to them, it's much easier. I mean, people are using Skype to do remote broadcasting, but think a little bit higher. You can have a broadcast grade IP soft codec delivered instantly to an expert or to a reporter anywhere in the world and bring them in to your program. So good IP codec, judicial mix with soft codecs, and a server-based infrastructure on the studio side it becomes very interesting or much more compelling. So let's look at this as a case study, the enterprise network that we are creating for this large broadcaster, Sirius XM. On the studio side, there is a rack of receivers. The codec on the studio side is server-based, and there are all these reporters, hundreds of reporters in the field, which have a combination of hardware codecs as well as soft codecs. And the challenge here is that you want to include these reporters in what we call different call groups. So, for example, a particular reporter may be part of one program, let's say at 2 p.m. today, may want to be part of a different program, a different call group at 3 p.m. tomorrow. So, on the studio side, what we decided that the best way to handle that is have multiple calls or multiple call groups being hosted on a single one U rack server. So if we look a little bit further, the architecture looks somewhat like this. On a particular server, you can create these multiple call groups, and each call group has multiple reporters. So to take a specific example, in this specific deployment, we have up to 12 call groups hosted on a single server, and up to 12 reporters included in each of the call groups. Now, these call groups can be live or they can be scheduled for a later delivery. So, if you look a little bit closer, we have this rack server sitting in the studio that can host 12 active call groups simultaneously, and each call group can have up to 12 reporters. Now, each call group is tied with a studio, and from the studio you basically get two audio feeds, one main audio in and one talk back, and those get delivered to all the reporters, and then the reporters can talk back to the host. In fact, if I look at the next screen, this becomes a little bit more interesting. I'll come back to that. So on the studio side, there is a nice console for the studio host. He or she has basically two bus, an on-air bus and a standby bus, and the reporters can be flexibly brought into this call group by looking at the list of available reporters. There can be hundreds of reporters in the field, and they can be included in a particular call group. So the host monitors them in a standby location on a standby bus, and once they're satisfied with the audio quality and the content quality, then they instantaneously move them to an on-air bus, and then the reporter goes live. Now this can be done actively as the thing is going on, or this can be done for a future program that let's do this call group, let's say 2 p.m. tomorrow. So the advantage of this type of management software on the studio side is that these reporters are not committed to always connect to a specific studio. Now they can be part of different call groups at different times. They can be part of one call group today, another call group tomorrow, or on the same day they can be part of different call group as long as there is no conflict. And this management software advises the studio host that are you overcommitting the reporters? Are you overcommitting your IP audio codecs? Now, as I talked about the soft codecs. So soft codecs get delivered to new hosts or new reporters, new experts anywhere in the world, and they instantly get added to this list. And then they can be brought in by the reporters based on the interest if they're available to a particular call group. The other interesting, you can utilize the power of IP to do other interesting things. You can have these reporters send you files or audio programs, pre-recorded programs in the same interface. And that can be previewed and quickly put on the air. So the basic message, what I'm trying to get out of this thing is that utilizing a good server infrastructure and management software on the studio side, you can make full use of your IP codec investment. It gives you lots of flexibility. I mean, they can be, instead of having a fixed deployment, you can utilize them in several different ways at different time of the day or as part of different programs. So the good enterprise-grade IP audio network, first of all, allows you to make best utilization of your IP codec investment. It allows you to make your content more interesting. Like in a cricket broadcast, they can be not only reporters but experts based anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world who can be flexibly brought in to make the presentation more interesting. And then at the end of the day, the end effect of all of this is that you utilize the power of internet and this large enterprise network to hold the attention of your listeners and hence allow you to grow your business. So that is what the essence of this presentation is, to utilize the power of internet to make your IP audio network more flexible and think about these enterprise-grade IP audio network. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. So we've had 4 very scintillating presentations from Mr. Jail Thakkar, who outlined the potential of the total M&E industry. Mr. Tom Beck on monetization of for radio broadcasting through the use of radio networking. Ms. Sharma on new media avenues for traditional broadcasters, and Mr. Deepen Sinha on enterprise IP audio delivery infrastructure and networks. And now the floor is all open for all of you. Any issues that you may want to take up with any of the panelists?